I'm 34 now, and when I look back, I can trace the moment my trust in my marriage really cracked. It wasn't during one of our private arguments, or even the first time he walked out during a fight. It was the night everything became public. Marcus and I had been together for 6 years, married for just under 2. He was 41 when we met, already established in his career as a property consultant, confident in a way that made me feel grounded. I was 27 then, working as a project coordinator for a nonprofit, still figuring out who I wanted to be. The age gap never bothered me at first. If anything, I thought it meant stability. We didn't fight often in the beginning. Or rather, we didn't fight out loud. Marcus had a habit of shutting down instead of engaging. When something bothered me, he'd go quiet, change the subject, or leave the room. I told myself that was just how he processed things. When I got pregnant, I thought it might bring us closer. We agreed to keep things simple, a small gathering at my sister's house, just close friends and family, nothing flashy. I didn't want a spectacle. I wanted a moment we could share. The evening started well enough. There was food on the table, soft music playing, people laughing. Marcus was quiet, but I told myself he was just tired. He had mentioned before that he'd imagined having a son someday, but he always followed it with, "As long as the baby's healthy, that's what matters." When we opened the envelope and the card inside revealed we were having a daughter, I felt a rush of emotion. Surprise, joy, fear, all of it at once. Marcus didn't smile. At first, no one noticed. Then he let out a short laugh and said, loud enough for the room to hear, "Well, that's not what I expected." People chuckled politely, assuming it was a joke. I tried to laugh too, but something in his tone made my stomach drop. "I honestly don't know what I'm supposed to do with a girl," he continued. "I thought I'd be better at raising a boy." The room went quiet. Someone tried to redirect the conversation, but Marcus waved them off. "I'm serious. Girls are complicated, emotional. I was really hoping we'd get it right the first time." I remember standing there, frozen, my hand resting instinctively on my stomach, feeling like I had been pushed out of my own body. This wasn't just about me anymore. This was about the child growing inside me, being reduced to a disappointment in front of everyone we loved. People started making excuses to leave. The evening dissolved around us. No one confronted him. No one knew what to say. Later that night, when we were alone, I told him how humiliated I felt, how hurt I was, how scared his words had made me. He told me I was being dramatic, that honesty wasn't a crime, that I'd embarrassed him by reacting the way I did. That was the first time I thought, if he can dismiss my feelings this easily, what happens when our daughter has her own? Things didn't get better after that. If anything, they got quieter. Marcus began spending more nights away, claiming he needed space to think. The first time he left after an argument, he stayed with his brother. The second time, he didn't tell me where he was going at all. Each time, he'd return days later as if nothing had happened. The fights themselves were always about the same things. His refusal to talk things through. His habit of making major decisions without involving me. His tendency to turn every serious conversation into a threat of walking away. The breaking point came when I found out, by accident, that he had signed paperwork on an investment property without telling me. It wasn't the money that upset me. It was the secrecy. When I confronted him, calmly at first, he stared at me like I'd asked something unreasonable. "I didn't think it was worth discussing," he said. I told him it was worth discussing to me. He stood up, grabbed his jacket, and said, "I'm not doing this," before walking out the door. That night, I slept alone, wondering how many times a marriage could fracture before it finally broke. The next morning, I found out he'd told his parents that I had overreacted and driven him away. By the end of the day, both families knew we were having problems. My private pain had become a public narrative, carefully edited by him. I moved into my sister's guest room a week later, not because he asked me to leave, but because I no longer felt emotionally safe staying. Now, sitting here months later, I'm trying to be honest with myself about what this relationship actually is. Not what I hoped it would be. Not what it looked like from the outside. I keep thinking about our daughter, about the way he spoke about her before she was even born, about the way he leaves instead of listening, about how quickly he turns vulnerability into inconvenience. I don't know yet whether this marriage is fixable, but I do know this. Love without accountability isn't stability. And silence, when it's used as a weapon, can be just as damaging as words spoken too loudly. I used to believe that growing older together meant growing stronger. Now I understand that sometimes growing means knowing when something is no longer safe to carry forward, especially when a child is watching, even before she can see. This concludes today's story. Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed it, consider subscribing to support our work.